Technical Writing for Inspectors, Module 8, How Do I Start? Instructor, Gary A. Pace, PE, CWI, Katy, Texas, TexasWeldingEngineering.com. Okay, so our learning objectives are identifying our reader, establishing our purposes, types of purposes, brainstorming, and creating an outline. This is all going to help us get started. Figure out how to get started writing. So first one is identifying our reader. Identifying our reader is going to help us make our decisions on what should go into the report and what shouldn't. This is, a basic fact of any writing. Writing a letter to your girlfriend is significantly different than writing a letter to a friend or a letter to your mother. There is information that you would convey to your girlfriend in a love letter that you would not convey to your mother in a letter to her. So, it's common sense identifying your reader and what information that reader needs to have or is looking for. So, once we identify our reader, we should be able to arrange our report and then put in the information that the reader needs to understand what we're writing about. And this is also going to identifying the reader also influences the tone and structure of the document. Let's say we're the boss. We would write a report with a different tone and structure than we would if we were sending it to our boss, or a report going to a customer or client is going to be a significantly different report than one going to maybe somebody we're trying to purchase something from, a vendor. So just depending on what the situation is, identifying the reader is going to influence the tone and structure of the document. So some of the readers of documents we might be putting together: engineers, managers, non-technical people. Well, of these three that I've already clicked off here, when we write a report, any of these three, we could convey the same information to three different groups, but we would put the information into different formats to convey it. Non-technical people are probably going to need a little more help digesting technical issues as opposed to engineers. Inspectors are technical people, but they're not engineers, so there would be some similarities in how we would write that report. Shipping and receiving, they might need a report or some kind of documentation or work instruction. Lawyers, let's say you get involved as a expert witness in some kind of dispute. A report going to a lawyer is going to be different than some of these other groups. Establishing your purpose. So when you're writing a document, you need to know what the purpose is. What am I doing? Why am I writing this? I've written a lot of reports and a lot of documents over the years, but one of my first ones was telling the engineering group, who was a bunch of know-it-alls, that they were doing things wrong. And they were beating up manufacturing in the welding group and telling us we were doing things wrong. So I wrote a report and explained, no, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing in regards to choosing materials for this application. That was my report, and it was to my management and the president of the company. It wasn't to our customer. It wasn't to the client. It wasn't to our shipping and receiving department. It was me having an internal dispute with our design group. That's why I wrote the report. It was in self-defense. Those guys were attacking me and my group. I wrote a report defending what we were doing. Or you could, sometimes you write a report, you're on the other side. You're looking at why something failed. Okay, I'm out in the field. We had a vendor send us something and send us some part or component, and it catastrophically failed. Okay, I go write a failure analysis report to convey the information to the vendor that, hey, you sent us a piece of junk and it failed, and here's the pictures, and this is what happened, and it's not our fault. You owe us another component, or you need to fix this one. So there's a lot of different reasons for writing. And knowing that there's different reasons for writing, we have different goals or purposes. So that's going to set the tone of the document that we're writing. So the types of purposes that we could have for, writing a report would be, hey, maybe we're defending ourselves. Hey, the client, we sent them a component or a part or did something, and they chewed it up. Our customer chewed it up, and they're telling us that it was our fault, and we're saying, no, we sent you a perfectly good component. This is this, and this. You guys destroyed it because you were using the component, part, piece, whatever, outside the scope of what it was designed for. Informing. Sometimes you're just telling somebody what was done. Maybe you're on a project and you tell your boss, hey, this is what got done this week. You write a report and you just say, hey, an example I would use is I was on a bridge project years ago, and I would send central control, my boss, hey, this is what got done this week. We worked on this, and this, and we're going to work on this, and this next week. I didn't point blame. I didn't do whatever. I just told him what got done. That's it. This is what got done. This is why it took so long to do this. This is what happened here. I just informed. Explaining and informing could kind of come under the same thing, but explaining to a client how something works. They ask you, how does this widget work, this component, and you explain. Or maybe you're explaining in a document welding to a non-welding person. And once again, I get back to welding because that's a lot of what I do, but you're explaining welding. So you're taking information that you consider very rudimentary, very ground level information, and you're explaining it to somebody that doesn't understand. Sometimes you put together documents explaining things. Evaluating. Well, all right, we tested this component, piece, part. We evaluated this truck to see if it was good enough, or this welding machine. You write an evaluation. Good, bad. These are the things I like. These are the things I don't like. And you send that up the food chain. Problem solving. Sometimes you're trying to solve problems. And that goes, you're just grinding through a problem. That's going to give a different tenor than defending, informing, explaining. Process analysis. Once again, that might fall under a evaluation, but evaluating a process. All right, this process is this, and this. We evaluate it. Well, this is kind of screwed up. This doesn't work very well. So then we get to, once we've got that figured out, we're going to go into brainstorming. And brainstorming is, this doesn't have to be a super complicated process. If you know what you're writing about, all right, we're writing a weld inspection report. We don't have to have a 13-hour brainstorming session, but you should have some brainstorming, jotting some ideas down on a piece of paper that can help you. It's going to help you direct the direction your report's going to go, and it's also going to help identify keywords and questions that need to be asked or answered. So, this can be done on the back of a napkin or a piece of paper or in your mind, or it can be more formal or just in a notebook. But you're writing things down that this is going to be your jumping off point. This is going to be where you jump off from. And you need to, to begin planning, you're going to need some ideas, and the way to do that is to brainstorm. And, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be something where you sit around a round table with 37 of your coworkers and kick ideas around. It might be just you driving back from a job site where you looked at something, and then you've got to write a report on it. And in your mind, as you're driving down the highway looking at cows in rural Iowa or whatever, you're thinking about, you're planning and brainstorming and generating ideas for how you're going to write your report. And when you start uh, doing this, don't be afraid to include extra information into what you think your report needs. I look at it as making a movie. When they shoot a movie, a 2 hour movie, they don't just shoot 2 hours worth of film. They shoot hours and hours worth of film. And then they cut a bunch of it. They throw a bunch of stuff out. There's extra stuff that just gets cut. So when I write a report, I write it big and then whittle it down. Throw out things that are garbage and, hey man, I don't like this. And so I start big and go small. So that's what I'm telling you to do on this. Uh, everything that you think is going to be relevant to that report, put it into your brainstorming and your rough draft and start, thinking the direction you're going to go. Include that information, even if you're going to take it out later. Um, and once again, don't just throw stuff out, things that you don't think. Put it in there. Put it into your rough draft and include it in your thinking. Because this part of the report writing or writing is you're going to include everything but the kitchen sink in there. You're going to and then we're going to whittle it down to exactly what you need. So we're going to start big and then, whittle it down. Take some things out that don't really belong. So when we create an outline, this is going to be the framing of the house. This is going to be the backbone of what we're doing. So it's our plan for our writing project, for our report, whatever we're putting together. We got an outline. We don't just want to wander around and just clump a bunch of random paragraphs into a report and then send it to somebody, and then they look at it and they're like, who wrote this? This person is a barely functional human being. Why are they writing this report and sending it to me? Because all of this is gibberish and nonsense. And a report that isn't well organized can often be perceived that way and taken that way, and it can be problematic later on. We usually want to have a list of headings and subheadings. So we want to have the main points of our report. What are we writing about? Okay, this weld, and this weld. Bad. And these are some other minor things that your group was doing wrong. I saw the welders doing this. They weren't preheating. They weren't doing this. You depending on what information you're trying to convey, you want to have your main points and then maybe some minor points or supporting points. Okay, we had weld cracking. Weld cracking is our main point. Well, I noticed your welders weren't doing this, and this. So we want to have that written into there. Outlines are the roadmap to writing your report. So these outlines, it's a roadmap. And do we have to? Let's say we're going from, let's say Texas to New York, and we've got our roadmap. Well, do we have to follow our roadmap to the letter? Maybe, but a lot of times you might have to change your route. We still know we're going to New York, but instead of going through Cincinnati, we're going to go over to the east and go through North Carolina. We can change things. Our end goal is still the same for what we're writing our report about, but we might have to make some adjustments while we're trying to get to our end goal. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what I'm saying here. Outlines can be revised. If there's something that doesn't make sense or that needs to be clarified or removed, or maybe we need to add another talking point to our report and in our outline, we can do that. None of this stuff, when you're writing, it's a fluid process. It's a dynamic process. There's going to be a lot of changes that are going on, so we need to just understand that. So 5 steps to creating an outline. Choose your topic and establish your purpose for the report. All right, we're writing about weld failure. All right, that's our topic. And then, we're going to create a list of main ideas. And this is when we're brainstorming. Okay, I got to talk about, I got 7 welds that failed and I want to talk about them, but I also need to talk about welding defects and I need to talk about this. Well, we're going to write this down and scribble it down on a piece of paper or make a rough draft and try and create an outline. We're trying to figure out where we're going, and we're organizing our main ideas. What am I trying to convey to this person? What am I trying to explain to them? So we want to have those main ideas organized so that we can hit our reader with those with that information. They're like, oh, all right, I understand what this person is trying to explain to me. So organization of the main ideas is very key to creation of an outline. And then we're going to flush, once we have our main ideas, we're going to flush them out and add some more information to them. This weld failed. All right, why did it fail? Or what caused it to fail? Or what other information we need to include in there? We're going to flush out our main points. We're going to add some meat to it. We're going to add extra information to our main ideas. And then we're going to review and adjust as needed. So this whole writing thing is, a lot of times you're going to have to reread your own material multiple times and fix it. That's just the way it is. But don't, if you're new to writing reports and doing this, don't be afraid to review and adjust when you need to. Walk away sometimes, come back and look at it. I do this all the time when I write things. And then I look at it and think, who wrote this garbage? And then I'll go in and fix things. And I'll come back again and fix some more stuff. So, just realize that review and adjust is part of the game. That's just how we do it when we're writing. Everybody that writes reviews and adjusts. And this is really crucial when we're trying to create our outline. So with an outline, it's just a blueprint. It's a rough draft of our document. It's just, it's not our final product. We're just throwing in a rough draft. And it's the blueprint for what we're trying to get accomplished. It tells us, it's our recipe, and it tells us how we're going to organize our message to our reader, and then how we're going to sequence our key ideas and how our report's going to go together. So this is what we're going to do with our outline, but it's our recipe, and we need to realize that. So we have to have writer and reader goals. So what is the writer trying to accomplish with your writing? Like I said, what are we trying to explain to somebody? Am I sending them a document that explains welding to them? Or maybe I'm explaining welding defects to them. I've wrote multiple documents, and they weren't huge documents, but it was, relative, like a long email, let's call it. But it was a document. But my goal when writing that document, it was 5, 6, 8, 10 paragraphs, was explaining how welding codes work. I did it all the time previously. All right, my goal is telling this person this. Or the customer comes to me with an issue and says our product was garbage and broke, and I am defending myself and my company and saying I will look into it, or I have looked into it. No, this product failed due to your negligence. Your people did this, 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 and this. What are you trying to accomplish? What is your goal as a writer? What is the reader trying to accomplish? What does the reader need? What information does the reader need? Maybe we're writing a report to our boss explaining to them, okay, this failed. The customer did this, 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 and this, and that's why our product failed in the field. That's my opinion. So, and the reader, what does my boss trying to accomplish? Well, my boss wants information on what happened out in the field. He or she needs a document or a piece of information that has outlined what happened to our component that failed. All right, my guy says this happened. My inspector says this happened. So it just depends on what each writer and reader is trying to accomplish with that document or report when they're reading it or writing it. All right, summary. We identified our reader. We talked about establishing the purpose. We talked about types of purposes. We talked about brainstorming. And we talked about creating an outline for our document. Questions. Gary A. Pace, PECWI, Katy, Texas, TexasWeldingEngineering.com. Got any questions or comments? Contact me and I'll try and see what I can do to help you.